Dr. Kimberly, we are live.
Oh, wait a minute.
Come on, y'all, it's time.
Come
It's
on, come
time.
on,
It's
let's
time. Come
go,
on,
let's
come
go,
on.
let's do this.
Rolling on the road
With
with the
the
doc.
doc,
Rolling on the road.
with Dave,
Rolling on the road
with
with
the
the
doc.
doc. 100 shades of diversibility with Dave and Dr.
All
Burton.
right,
I
all
heard
right,
you.
that was
I
cool.
heard you.
Yeah, yeah,
Hey,
hey, let's
hey,
go. That was
all
nice.
right.
And we want to thank you for tuning in once again. Dave is on another assignment. I know. Where's Heidi? Heidi is saying, where's Dave? Dave's not home. Nope. But guess what? We keep on rolling. And I am so excited today as we are on part 3 of Gift of Life Michigan. We are going to talk to Miss Amy Bacon, and do not make jokes about her name, even though that's my favorite name. Bacon, 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 bacon.
Bacon, bacon, bacon.
Bacon, 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 bacon. And for number one, she is dispelling the myth that Black people do not get transplants. And she's here to dispel that because she's an African American woman who received a heart transplant. And we're excited to have her. Yay! We're clapping.
Yes.
How are you today?
I am doing fabulous today. I'm just happy to be here, happy to be alive, and happy to be representing the gift of life and all those who are currently waiting for a solid organ.
Excuse me. My water went down the wrong way. Um, we were just talking a little bit about that in the green room. I love that, the green room in the backstage. Is there any particular time where there is one organ or two that are more needed or coveted at any given time?
You know what? That's a very interesting question because right now in the state of Michigan, there's about 2,400 people that are on the waiting list waiting for a solid organ. And out of that 2,400 people, a little over 1,900 people are waiting for a kidney transplant. So it seems that the kidneys is always the most coveted organ. And that is because we have such high rates of diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease.
Mhm.
And diabetes and high blood pressure are the primary reasons for a person to go into end stage renal failure and to need a kidney transplant. In addition, unfortunately, that list makes up a dominant portion of those of multicultural backgrounds. So people that look like you and I. The typical wait for a kidney in Michigan is also 5 to 7 years. So those individuals are waiting 5 to 7 years to get a kidney, but they're also going to dialysis. And I'm sure we all know somebody that is on dialysis, unfortunately. And you figure you're going to dialysis, between 3 and 4 times a week,
Mhm.
and each treatment lasts up to 4 hours. So
Yeah.
you're looking at 16 to 20 hours of your week spent on dialysis. And so if you have a family, can you imagine trying to work a full-time job and trying to support your family financially? It is very, very difficult.
Well, unfortunately, I have to say, we call it the sugar
Mhm,
that
mhm.
my grandmother was diabetic, my father was diabetic, I'm diabetic, and somewhere in there we have to say we need to make some changes.
Yes.
Partly for me, my diabetes got bad because I had to be on prednisone.
Ah, yes. Good old prednisone. I
And
yes, I'm diabetic also. And so I have medication induced diabetes. And so when I had my heart transplant, I too was on prednisone, and prednisone, not only does it drive your blood sugar, it also causes you to gain weight. And we know that obesity,
Mhm.
it can cause diabetes. So yes, I have been diabetic since I was transplanted in 2012.
Wow. We want to stop and say hello to Sheila Curry, who's watching. Let's
Hi,
see. Say, hey, Sheila.
hey Sheila.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And let's go back over here. And one of the things that happened, I know with two people in particular, that the number that was given to them by the doctor was 15 years. That it took 15 years for them to get to the point where there was, significant damage to their heart and
Mm,
their kidneys. I would admonish everybody that today needs to be the day where you make the decision that you're going to change your life
yes.
habits. You may not be able to change the first 15 years, but I am certain that if you change the way you eat, the way you exercise,
Mhm.
even some of your personal habits, one of the things that I've learned when it comes to having had a heart attack is that
Mm.
self-care. You can't solve everybody's problems.
Exactly.
It's,
Exactly.
you just can't. And there are some of us, and there's one person in particular, I just saw you come on to the show on 100 Shades of Diversibility's page. And you live in Atlanta, and that's all I'm going to say. So you know that I'm talking to you. You can't carry everybody on your back because you have diabetes as well.
Mhm.
And you've been taking your medication and you've been trying to make some lifestyle changes. But guess what? One big major lifestyle change is that you can't carry everybody. I
Mhm.
tell people all the time, my wheelchair, this one and the other one that I have, is only designed for one person to be in it, to be on it. So I can't put other people in or on this wheelchair with me. So people like to come and lean on it. Well, I can feel
Mm.
that. And they get offended when I ask them, please, this is not for you to hold on to. I promise you, I'll listen to what you got to say. I'm not going to wheel out your life.
Yes.
Just, because you don't hold on to able-bodied people, if you will, when you're talking to them. You don't hold their hand or keep your hand on their waist or on their shoulder while you're talking. Don't do
Mhm.
that to me in my wheelchair. But I can feel that extra weight that people when they go to hold on or lean onto my chair, it's like, whoa.
And you know what? Coincidentally, I was taking a diversity and inclusion class when I was getting my master's degree, and that was one of the things that we learned. If someone is in a wheelchair, do not lean on the handle, do not lean on the armrest. It's rude. And I also want to share with you all, I just finished all of my classes in my doctoral program in public health.
Woohoo.
Yes. And so now I'm moving on to my capstone project, and I am working with Dr. Silas Norman,
Hmm.
and he is a Black nephrologist at Michigan Medicine. And so my capstone project is preventing the progression of chronic kidney disease among those in multicultural communities
I love it.
through education and early referrals to nephrologists. What we have are seeing, and what I've seen in my research is, by the time a person knows that they have kidney disease, it's too late. It's the silent killer.
Very
Okay.
much so.
And I've got a dear friend of mine here in the Flint area. He knew he had high blood pressure, didn't think fat meat was greasy, and presented to the it was a urgent care. He was so sick they immediately sent him to the hospital, where he started emergent dialysis. Now, bear in mind, he's in his mid 30s, married with kids, but consequently, he's been on dialysis for 4 years and
Hmm.
he's not listed yet. Okay. So getting listed for a transplant is not a easy task in its own. You have so many things that you have to make sure that you have in place. No alcohol in your system, no drugs, no nicotine. You have to have insurance in place. So if you happen to have, say, for instance, Medicare, for instance, a lot of people don't realize that Medicare by itself only covers 80%. So you're going to need a Medigap. That Medigap insurance is expensive, and most people can't afford that. You
Mhm.
have to make sure that you have family support and transportation to and from the transplant hospital. And so getting to be when I was initially getting listed, Dr. Kimberly, do
Mhm.
you know they took me off the list for crying too much?
Are you serious? Oh
Yes.
my gosh. Okay. We're,
Yes.
we're, we're getting ready to unpack
Mhm, mhm.
so much.
Yes.
I want to give a shout out to Tracy Walls, who's watching us from Faulkner, Maryland. Hey, Tracy. Thank you so much for tuning in. We need to go back a little bit.
Okay.
Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's start with our behaviors first, because one of the things that people don't know, and I loved about my husband, is he always paid attention to his labs.
Mm,
If you go to the doctor once a year, they're going to do labs on you,
mhm,
and you should get a copy of that. Anything that is high, it should, so you'll get a number, and let's say let's do your A1C. So they'll say your A1C is 7.9, and
mhm,
it'll tell you that last year it was 7.5. That means it's gone up 4 points, and your sugar is not good. So you
mhm,
need to pay attention to that. Uh, your bun, your creatinine, those
mhm,
kind of things. They have
mhm,
your kidney function. All
mhm,
of those are listed. They have your numbers where they'll say this is the normal range. Anything below this, it's too low. Anything above this
mhm,
is too high, and it needs to be addressed. And
mhm,
so the VA gives you, if you are a part of the VA system, healthcare, at
mhm,
least once a year, you're gonna see your doctor, and they're gonna do draw labs on you. So you
mhm,
need to pay attention to those labs. If you're a civilian, I don't know. I haven't been one since I was 17 years old. So I'm not sure how civilian doctors or civilians do it, but I'm sure that they give you the same, blood work. And when it comes back, if you see changes in your number, first of all, they're supposed to discuss it with you. If they don't, when you get it, you need to be proactive
yes.
and say, hey, look, these don't really make a lot of sense to me, but I see a lot of, here are 10 things that you took blood for. 5 out of the 10 say high, 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 high. Can you help me to understand what this means?
Kimberly, you know what the issue is? I've been a public health educator for many, many years, and I've worked in, different clinics and doctor's office. This is what the problem is. Okay. You
Hmm.
make your appointment with your primary care physician. Okay. Typically your appointments are 30 minutes. All right. The first 15 minutes is spent with the MA, taking your blood pressure, your weight, and what have you. So here your doctor comes in. He only has 15 minutes. Okay. And
Hmm.
so he's only going to be able to cover so much information in 15 minutes. All right. So he might see your A1C is steadily increasing. And so all he's going to do is put more medication on you. Okay. Not even looking at the social determinants of health that might be impeding your blood sugars. What I found, insulin is so expensive. Okay. So sometimes a patient will take their what they should be taking and adjust that dose because maybe they're trying to make that insulin stretch. Okay. Or they may be taking a medication. Metformin is the cheapest diabetic medication that you can give a patient. And
But
it's the
it's the worst one on our bodies.
yes,
And it's the worst ones
yes,
for people of color.
yes. I'm telling you what, I've been on metformin and I'm telling you what, your diarrhea, stomach pains. And so consequently, guess what happens? They stop taking it.
Yep.
So then you're going back to the doctor, and all he sees is that number, and either he doesn't make the time to ask you if you're taking the medication properly. Also, he's telling you to eat right. But guess what? What if you have food insecurities? And what if you are getting food assistance, but with that food assistance, you're not only yourself, but maybe a partner in the household and children. So you are buying food in bulk, your macaroni and cheeses, your rices, trying to make your food stretch. You cannot afford to go out and get healthy fruits and vegetables. In addition, well, how come you're not coming to, how come you have so many missed appointments? Well, guess what? I have transportation issues. Or maybe I have stress in the household, because stress also
Oh,
can
yes.
raise your blood sugar, your blood pressure. So you have so many social determinants of health that impact health, that oftentimes, unless you're going to a clinic where they have community health workers or a health educator, those barriers to access to food and transportation and what have you, those aren't being addressed. So what's going to happen? The doctors are going to constantly keep giving you medication and giving you medication and they're not attacking the base problem. And that is where the problem is.
And I agree. And then it's so what do we do? How do we solve it? Do we get more time? And it's like, no, I mean, they're just really.
You know what it is? I think that we have to empower people that look like us, the brown people, to um, to take control of their own health and to advocate for themselves, because we know when something is not right within our body. Let me
Mhm.
tell you a story. What caused me to have a heart transplant? March 19th, 2009, I had a sudden cardiac arrest. Okay.
Mhm.
And we know that women present with heart problems totally different than men. I had been complaining to my primary care physician that I don't feel right. I'm having flutters in my chest. She thought I was med seeking and she poo pooed me. And when I had my sudden cardiac arrest, a couple of days later, my mom went to her office, and I'm telling you what, she wrecked the buffet. She was like, all this time you thought my daughter was med seeking and my daughter had a cardiac arrest. You did not take her seriously. Had she taken me seriously, I would have had the cardiac arrest and she would have sent me to a cardiologist and they would have learned that there was something wrong with my heart and they could have started treatment. But that was the experience that I had. And then I had a colonoscopy 2 days prior. And so when I got admitted to the hospital, I was so sick. I had a high fever and I want to say I was septic. And so they weren't really sure if maybe the the gastroenterologist, when he did the colonoscopy, that perhaps he had nicked my bowel and then that caused the infection. So there were so many things that were missed prior to me having that cardiac arrest. But I know for sure I was complaining for a long time about not feeling right. And all they wanted to do was slap medication on me and they did not take me seriously.
We want to say hello to Lois Blunt and Rachel Merritt who are watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. Uh, it's now, wow, 20 after the hour, and you are rolling on the road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave. Dave is on assignment, and my guest today is Miss Amy Bacon,
Hello.
and she's an educator with Gift of Life Michigan. This is segment number 3, and we're talking about how she was a recipient of a heart transplant. However, we're kind of going back to before she even needed to get the heart. So we talked about some of the medical factors. Wow, that
Mhm.
I'm overwhelmed right now. I really am. I'm just overwhelmed by everything that you said. I can only imagine how others have felt in this
Mhm.
situation because it's one of those things of in this moment I'm feeling what they call survivor's guilt.
Mm.
And survivor's guilt usually happens with those who are in the military and they have been in combat and some of their comrades have died and they survived, and maybe it was 10 that went into combat and only 3 come back, and they're one of the 3 that come back to their families, and it's called survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Rachel says, is it cut? She said something about it's cutting out. We have good internet, so I'm not sure
Yeah.
why it's cutting out for you. Maybe you don't have a good internet connection, but you can watch the replay on YouTube. I'll make sure that I post it on your page. Um, but for me, I'm having a transparent moment. I am feeling survivor's guilt listening to you and some of the issues that people have with access to care,
Yeah.
because that hasn't been my story or my issue. And I tell people all the time that you are your best advocate and you
Mhm.
have to know you. And I, I love everything that you said because U of M, University of Michigan, Health West, just wrote an article about me because I just had a heart attack.
Mm.
And that was the part that he loved the most that I said is that I know my body well
Mhm.
enough and I love me enough to be able to say, regardless of whether you think that there's something wrong or not, I needed to make a phone call. Just like
Mhm.
you, I had just had a medical procedure in Ann Arbor,
Mhm.
had just come back from Ann Arbor
Mhm.
back to the Grand Rapids area. That's 2.5 hours away. And I just said, okay, well, maybe I didn't feel well because of surgery. You don't get to eat,
Mhm.
anesthesia, pain medication that they gave me on an empty stomach. And
Mhm.
the only symptoms that I had was that I was vomiting
Mhm.
and I had diarrhea.
Mhm.
Those were my only symptoms. And because I am in a wheelchair, and just from the force of the thrusting, it made my vision feel blurry, and not
Mhm.
having eaten, and the leaning forward made my head hurt. And
Mhm.
that was it. And I called the VA and they told me immediately to dial 911 and
Mhm.
be taken, you need to get to the hospital by ambulance. And we get there. And this whole time I was having a heart attack.
Wow.
I mean, I took a shower, packed me a to-go bag.
Oh my. And so let me ask you this. So was this the same day you were discharged?
Yes, ma'am.
You're kidding me.
I was discharged from the VA hospital in Ann Arbor at 11:30. I got home about 1:30, and by I want to say 3 or 4 o'clock, about 4 or 5 maybe, I said, I don't think I feel good.
I wonder what did they miss? They should have caught that because if they were doing labs, they should have saw that you had
My tropopin was low.
your tropomins.
Yes.
That should have been an indication. It should have been an indication. And you know what? That brings me to something that I'm going through right now. For the past 2 weeks, I've been having a lot of heart palpitations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been talking with my transplant nurses, and they're like, "Well, we did your labs, and everything looks good." I'm like, "Mm-mm." They try, maybe you're not drinking enough, maybe you're dehydrated. And I'm like, this is not my first rodeo. I've been dehydrated before. Something's not right. And so I pushed. And so they are actually putting a heart monitor in the mail for me. But Dr. Kimberly, had I not pushed, they wouldn't be sending the heart monitor for me. They would have just chopped it up. Oh, it must be your anxiety again, or you're dehydrated. But again, you have to be your own advocate.
Well, one of the things that I did, because my husband had just, and I mean, this is just crazy the way it all happened, because he was admitted before me at the same hospital for acute congestive heart failure. So
Hmm.
the medications that they had given him, he was on prednisone in the hospital. But then when he came home, I'm not sure what happened, but in Trusto, they have on their study that it does not work well with Black people. And that's how they put it. Does not work well with Black people. It causes edema, and
Really?
we don't recommend them to take it. So as soon as he gets home, he's like, we take a nap, we're watching a movie, he falls asleep. He says, oh, my lips are swollen. I look at him and I said, oh, a little bit. And
Hmm.
I said, here, I gave him some Benadryl.
Uh-huh.
So he took the Benadryl, seems like it went down. And the next day, when he woke up, his whole face looked like a caricature.
Whoa.
I mean, his lips, his nose, his face, and he couldn't breathe. And I said, oh, Lord, I thought, okay, this is it, blah, blah, blah. We get to the hospital. They say, oh, we're sorry. It's the Entresto. We're going to give you something different. So when they tried to give me Entresto, I immediately said, no, not. Showed them the picture of my husband. And they're like, oh, yeah. Then I pull up the study about
Mhm.
Entresto. And I said, they said this is not a good medication for Black people. And so I researched and I said, what other medications work with Black people for heart damage, heart attacks, went through the whole thing, congestive heart failure, came up with a list of medications that I could take in place of that.
Mhm.
They stated, nope, there's nothing that we want to give you that we think is better than Entresto. Now, this is what I find out. They have an agreement that, because they're giving out these coupons. So that's always going to be the number one medication for them to go to is Entresto. They've given them these coupons. Just like if you watch the movie on Netflix, it's called Painkillers, how
Yes.
when they came up with uh, the opiate, how they
Mhm.
were getting these doctors to
Mhm. Mhm.
give these to your patients, give them, increase it. This is how we're going to do this. They're doing the same thing with Entresto, the same exact thing.
Wow.
It doesn't work. And they state on there it doesn't work for people of color. And I said, Lord, if I was not a systemic advocate and I advocated for my husband, advocating for myself, that's two folks that would have been gone. I mean, he did end up dying, but not because he was taking that medication.
Wow. Wow. I am so sorry that you had to go through that.
Hey, we want to say hey to Yantia. She's watching all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. And we got Brucina Mayfield who's tuning in from Muskegon, Michigan. Hey guys, thank you so much for
Hello.
tuning in today. Um, but there's just so much. I mean, that we could talk for hours
For hours
for
and
so many
hours.
different, aspects of this, from medication to doctors and what do we do? And definitely, you're gonna have to, we can even do a class and have folks come on and say, hey,
Well, you know what? Coincidentally, that is going to be what I'm going to do. It's a community-based participatory approach in a church setting, and I'm going to provide education about chronic kidney disease, why African Americans have a higher prevalence, things that each individual can do individually. Another issue, Dr. Kimberly, is we do not get referred to nephrologist when
No,
we're
we
supposed.
don't.
Okay.
We're going to say hey to Pastor Tolbert, who's tuning in, and to our favorite Shayna Thomas, who's tuning in from Bel Air, Maryland. Uh, I definitely want to, because we've really gone off on a whole nother bunny trail. But how did you end up getting the heart transplant? I mean,
Excuse my dog barking in the background. My apologies. No, Chili Bean, no. So what ended up happening, I had the sudden cardiac arrest on March 19th, 2009.
mhm.
And at the time, I was at just a local hospital was treating me. And then when they realized that my heart disease was progressing, they were like, well, this is out of our realm. And so they referred me to the University of Michigan heart failure and transplant team. And so at the time, I didn't have heart failure. I had just had a cardiac arrest, and they knew that my heart was enlarged. And so I had a pacemaker, and I was just on medication. Now, I was also very, very, very thin. Okay. And then I would say around 2012, I started to gain weight. And here I am thinking, oh man, I'm finally gaining weight.
Mhm.
Unbeknownst to me, it wasn't weight that I was gaining, it was
Fluid.
liquid. I was volume overloaded. And so then I developed the cough. And this cough is totally different than a regular asthma cough or a cold cough or a flu cough. What it was, my lungs were starting to fill with fluid and I was volume overloaded. And I remember one particular time I was in the house, I was in my doctor seeing my cardiologist, and I was coughing. And as she was walking down the hallway, she's walking in the door and she's like, we're admitting you. And I'm like, wait, what? Just put some Robitussin on it. I'm fine. I'm feeling good. What? You're doing too much.
So get some
And
Vicks, put some Vicks on it, you'll be
yeah,
fine.
yeah. And so she admitted me. And I'm here to tell you, Dr. Kim, when I got admitted at Univent, I felt fine. I was whistling Dixie. I had a cough. And I remember as I was coughing, I was throwing up white foam. And so then they thought I had whooping cough. And so then they had to move me in a private room and they were all hazmatic down. And I remember the chief cardiologist, Dr. Aronson, came in and he was like, he said some choice words. He was like, she doesn't got no whooping cough pertussis. She's got congestive heart failure. And I had never heard that term before.
Really?
And he was like, nah, Amy, I want you to go and I want you to take a good shower. And I'm thinking, am I stinking? Why are you telling me to take a good shower? Not knowing what was about to go down. So they sent me down to the cath lab. And I remember, Dr. Kimberly, they're playing Michael Jackson Beat It. And I'm like, this seems like a party. Like they're all in my neck doing the cath. And they're like, and then it got serious. It got serious. They started shouting out these numbers. I didn't know what these numbers meant. I heard them say, get a bed in ICU. Somebody called Dr. Calger. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And one of the doctors leaned in my ear because I was on the operating table. He was like, we're admitting you to the ICU. And I'm like, wait, what? I came in with a cough. I went from being admitted to now you want to admit me to the ICU? I'm going to tell you what, they got me in that ICU, and I'm here to tell you, I, at that moment, realized what it felt like to be truly sick. And me sharing this, it's tearing off a scab. So just bear with me.
Oh, we understand.
I remember I had a line in my neck and it was short. It was short.
Mm-hmm.
Like I only had enough room to basically get off the bed, turn my butt, sit on the porta potty. And that's literally, it was short. And I just was having so many tests. Oh my God, I can't even, so many tests, and they were giving me so much medication. And I remember one particular medication they gave me. When they brought the medication in the room, Dr. Kimberly, it was in a black bag. You know how mostly IV bags are
Yes,
clear?
are clear.
This IV bag was black. And I'm like, why does that IV, why is it black? And they were like, because we need to protect the medication. And I'm like, well, what kind of medication y'all about to put in me that you need to protect? What about me? It's going in me.
Right.
And so when they started giving me that medication, whoo, so it was some of the medication that they were giving me was a vasodilator. So
Yeah.
vasodilators open up the blood vessels. So I'm here to tell, when those blood vessels started to open in my head, oh, pain,
Yes.
pain. Literally, they had to keep the lights dim. Any type of shine in any metal object, that reflection would just, it would just horrible. And I remember Dr. Aronson, he came in after they've done their tests, and I'm in the hospital, I'm in the room by myself, and he sits on the bed next to me. You know, when a doctor comes and sits on the bed next to you,
Yeah. I had that, yeah.
and he took my hand in his hand, and he was like, Amy, you need a new heart. Now, bear in mind, I went from being at home fine to just coming to have a checkup and having a cough to them telling me we're admitting you. This is all within 48 hours to being in ICU and then learning I need a new heart. What? And then the battery of tests started. And I'm gonna be transparent here. Okay.
Thank you.
You know, they were like, we need to test you for everything. And I had never had an HIV test before.
Mhm.
And not that I was at all promiscuous, but I'm like, oh my God, they're testing me for HIV. I was nervous. To be real, I was nervous. Who isn't nervous? You
Right.
know, you have premarital sex. I mean, you're going to be nervous, and so everything obviously came back fine. But I remember the battery of testing. You know, when they did the PET scan and they're looking at your body head to toe, making sure that you don't have any cancer. You know, I had to go see dental because you can't have any type of dental, like literally
Oh,
head
nothing.
to toe, head to toe.
Yep.
You know, your mental has to be there
Right
also.
there.
You have to be.
Shayna says, wow, Miss Amy, you are so strong. Thank you for sharing your story. Verchaji says hello. She is in Detroit. Carol Englishman, she lives right over there. That's my neighbor. She's watching. Hey, Carol.
Hi, thank you, Mom.
And then Rachel says that lisinopril is not a good medication
It
for.
causes a cough. It causes a cough. Like I was on
Yeah.
lisinopril and I coughed. But what ended up happening? So I was in the hospital probably for 2 weeks, and I remember when I came home, Dr. Kimberly, I was so overwhelmed by how much medication. I remember me and my mom, I would just I cried. I'm like, I was so overwhelmed. And so it seems like after that, everything just went downhill so fast. I was on so much medication. You know, my defibrillator was constantly firing. I can't tell you how many times I laid in my mom's living room floor while the EMTs worked on me. Like I was probably in and out the hospital. I probably spent 75% of my time in the hospital. Um, and when they finally now, but I was in school after I had my cardiac arrest. You know, I decided, God saved me for a reason. So I started working on my associate in applied science as a medical insurance specialist, and I was still trying to go to school. I couldn't even walk. I remember having a good friend of mine. She would hold me up, and I would be on the wall just trying to make it to class because I could not walk. Could not walk. I was constantly throwing up. My mom had a red mop bucket that she kept. Bars in the bathroom because I could not. When you have heart failure, it affects everything in your body. Like
Yes.
everything. And my defibrillator was constantly firing. And so I was originally listed. It was in 2000, it was November of 2021. But what happened was I was so full of fluid. I was so volume overloaded, my lungs, I would lay down and I would just cough and cough and cough. And I was so puffy and my stomach was just full of fluids. I was on diuretics, and they were like, that had two heart offers, actually. It had two heart offers, but they had to deny them because I was too sick to transplant.
Mm.
And I remember one time I was in the hospital, and they were like, there's nothing else that medically that we can do for you. There's nothing else. It got to the point where I couldn't even urinate. My body just shut down. So they would have to come in, do an ultrasound and make sure that I had urine, and then they would have to straight cap. And then they were like, we can try one thing, and that is a left ventricular assist device, an LVAD. And so they open you up and they put a pump in your heart that takes over the work for the heart. And they were like, we're praying that you are strong enough to sustain this surgery. And so while they were prepping me for that surgery, it took them about a week to prep me just to get my body strong enough. And I remember they came and they we got a date for you, March 5th, 2012. I'm like, that's my birthday. I am not about to be on anybody's operating table on my birthday. No. And I remember them saying, you want to live? I'm like, yeah. Well, you're going to get this LVAD placed on your birthday. So
we got a question. It says, did you have a long wait while being on the donor list?
Okay, I'm going to get to that.
And that's from Shayna.
So I was LVADed on March 5th, 2012. Mm-hmm. And brutal. Pain has a smell. Pain has a taste. Listen. It was horrible. But the LVAD did exactly what it was supposed to do. It brought my numbers down, and I remember them calling me on a Friday, letting me know, Amy, we're putting you back active status. That was a Friday. The following Monday, 3 days later, I got the call saying that they had a heart for me. So 3 days.
Wow.
Yes, 3 days. And when I got the call, it was 8:07 p.m. 8:07 p.m. And I was on my mom's couch, and I looked at my cell phone, and it was like 734 number. Oh, U of M, they're always calling me. It's probably, a reminder appointment or something. So I answered the phone. They're like, Amy Bacon, we've got a heart for you. And man, Kim, I don't even think that there is a word in the dictionary book to describe that feeling that I got instantly. I was so excited. I remember instantly I had the bubble guts. The bubble okay.
Oh God.
And so I'm literally
spirit. Somebody else bubble
I'm literally, let me tell you, I'm on the toilet, bubble guts, okay? While we're on the phone with the transplant team, like my body just was like, this is too much. And I remember them saying, this is a high risk heart. High risk is when the donor has piercings or body tattoos or recent incarceration, because they test for HIV and hepatitis, but they can only test within 3 days of exposure. Mm-hmm. So anything that person did 3 days prior to their demise, they can't test for. And I'm like, I'll take the heart for $200, Alex. And my mom was like, nope. We'll go on to the next one. So it was my mom that was like, we don't want that heart because it's high risk. And I'm in the background like, no, don't listen to her. I'll take the heart. And then I remember my mom is so extra, love her to death, but she's extra. And so she was like, well, we want to know who the surgeon is. Okay. And they were like, oh, Dr. Half. I don't know no Dr. Half. I know Pagani and I know a Romano. So if they don't got an ano at the end of their name, they're not touching my daughter. I'm like, you're doing too much. Okay. And I remember it was, and then my mom was like, okay, I need you. My mom is so extra. I need you to have the surgeon call me. God, who does that? Yes, my mom, bless her heart. So she made the U of M transfer. This is Amy Bacon's mom. She needs to talk to the surgeon. I love her. Yes.
See,
Yes.
this is our people. This is
Yes, our people. You know
our people. Okay, our
Yes.
people.
So he calls Miss Bacon. Yes, we've got a heart offer for Amy. Well, it's high risk. Can you just give us the next one, ma'am? Let me tell you something. Your daughter is literally living off of mechanical device where she plugs into a wall to make her heart work. Okay, let that sink in. Okay, we can't guarantee that another heart offer is going to come in a timely manner. And again, I'm in the background. I'll take the heart for $200, Alex. I don't want her to be my power attorney anymore. I take her off. I take her off. So, needless to say, we accepted the heart. And so, when you get the call, it's not like it's a guarantee, okay? Because once you get that call, you know the whomever is sometimes the organs are recovered at the transplant hospital and sometimes they're recovered at the gift of life, but then my transplant team goes to either the gift of life or the hospital where the organ is, and they have to do their own testing in addition to what the other testing was. And so if my transplant team deems that heart or that organ not good enough, they're not going to accept it. Okay. So you literally have to be getting prepped at the exact same time that the organ is being taken out the recipient, because you have a window of time between 4 and 6 hours typically that heart, once it's taken out of that donor, has to be put into the recipient. So once that organ is taken out, it's transported in a cooler on dry ice. And so my mom had, and this is nothing but God, my mom had the opportunity to see my surgeon, Dr. Haft, walking down the hallway at U of M with my heart in the cooler. My mom saw that. My mom was like, "Is that my daughter's heart?" And he said, "Yes."
You're gonna make me cry.
It was surreal. And
Gosh.
Dr. Kim, when the prep was so grueling. You know, they had to do the art line, and it was such a long process, it seems like. And my family couldn't be in the room with me because it was such a sterile. And so I was there by myself. But I remember the anesthesiologist, this girl was young. Oh my God. I'm like, how old are you? 60? She was young. And she was like, I got you. And I remember she had on her hospital jacket, she had a bunch of syringes and she just started putting it in my IV. And I'm like, I don't know what you're giving me, but I'm ready. and so at the time, a lot of my family members were on their way to go see Michelle Obama speak. This was in 2012. And so it was my mom, it was my brother, it was my sister, it was my pastor. And so when they were right before they opened, you know, the theater, the operating room doors, I had everybody stop and everybody, we're going to pray. We're going to pray this out before I get this heart. And
you know how I feel about that.
Oh, yeah. And you know what was really interesting? I remember after I woke up from getting that heart, Dr. Kimberly, I woke up like ping, like new money. Because when I had my first open heart surgery, I was intubated for 3 days. I was unconscious. But when I got that new heart in me, when I tell you I woke up feeling like 12,000 million stacks of new money. Like I felt like amazing.
Okay. So we're about to dispel. So we did myth number 1 that people of color don't get donations, especially hearts. Okay, we saw that happens. Number 2, did you feel differently? Like, what do you feel? Do you feel the other person?
Oh, we're about to get into it now. We're about to get into it now.
You
So
know, I mean, we watch movies where
So
Because when they said that you had a high risk, so did you want to go out and start drinking,
no,
smoking
no,
weed
no,
and
no. So the reason they say, so the
and
reason
get
they say
tattoos?
no, the reason they say high risk because if your donor had tattoos, recent incarcerations, or piercings, they don't know if maybe they got the piercing and it was a sterile setting or what. And so, you know what? So there's a phenomenon called cellular memory. And I implore everybody to look that up, cellular memory. And what it states is that your memory is not etched in your brain, but it's actually etched in your heart. And so what ended up happening, Dr. Kimberly, I actually, about 2 weeks after I got my donor heart, I was only in the hospital for 11 days. I was at home and I actually relived my donor's last moments of life. And it was horrible. It was horrible. It was horrible. Um, it was like everything was moving really, really fast. And I saw different aspects of his life, like him sitting at the dinner table with his family, him on the beach. And the sensation that I was feeling, it was like flames coming out of all of his orifice. And you know that sensation that you have when you know something is getting ready to happen and you're like bracing yourself.
Oh
Like
my gosh, yes.
that was the feeling. And then it was a gut-wrenching scream, like a gut-wrenching scream. And I remember getting off the couch and I'm trying to get up to my mom's bedroom. And she had the stairs with the landing and more stairs, and I'm struggling. And it just felt like there was an elephant on my chest. And my mom, nothing but God, I don't know how my mom felt something was wrong. And she immediately came down the stairs and I couldn't even talk. And I remember her kind of dragging me down the stairs to put me on the living room floor, called 911. So they're literally working on me in on the right there in her living room. And they're giving me everything. My heart rate was like 250 beats. They couldn't get they were literally working on me right there. And like we can't move her, nothing. We're working on her here. And I remember that was summer of 2012. And if anybody remembers summer of 2012, that was when it was hot. It was hot that summer. And we had a bunch of thunderstorms. And I remember them talking about taking me to the local hospital. They're like, nope, Allegiance ain't going to do it. We need to get her to U of M. So they were planning on actually sending a helicopter to land in the middle of my mom's street to take me to U of M. That was the plan. But there was a tornado warning or something like that, and they couldn't do it. So they ended up just doing it. Man, that ambulance was moving. It was moving. And so I get to U of M and everybody's so calm. I'm like, y'all didn't see my heart monitor. Y'all calm, calm, calm. They were so calm, like they see this all the time. And I remember they had the little sticky paddles on me. And again, they tried everything, Dr. Kim. They could not get my heart rate down. Could not. And they were like, well, if we can't get your heart rate down, Amy, we're going to have to cardiovert you. And what that means is they're going to have to shock me while I'm awake. And they're like, it's going to be extremely painful. So we need you to take some deep breaths. And then they, try to have me vasal drop where you bear down like you're having a bowel movement to try to bring your heart rate down. Nothing worked. And I remember Nurse Jeffries coming in the room. I remember this lady. She was Hispanic and Black. Beautiful. She came in calm, cool, collected. She had one syringe in her pocket. She was like, Amy, we see this all the time after transplant. We got you, boo. Man, she put that syringe in my IV, squirted that medication, and within a minute, my heart rate came down.
Wow.
But they're thinking it was me remembering my donor's last moments of life put me in ventricular tachycardia, and it was so stressful. And so after that, I was put on a medication to keep my heart rate down. And there's such a negative stigma attached to behavioral health and psychology and people getting counseling. But I'm here to tell you, I've been on the couch since the beginning of this, because literally someone has to die for you to live.
That's it. We want to shout out to Shantia Edge. who is watching with us, and there are tons of comments like, "Oh, wow, yes, woo." People are just on the edge of their seat with this. I'm sitting here like, okay,
Yeah. There's so many layers. And then I was able to meet my donor family.
okay.
And that's something that rarely happens because it's a gift. And so it's anonymous. And so there's a series, there's a process that you have to go through to be able to meet your donor family. Um, but how my donor passed away was very, very tragic. I'm not going to divulge that, but it was very tragic. And so when I relived his last moments, that's why it was so intense, because the way in which he passed away. Um, Talking to my other transplant peers, heart transplant peers, a lot of them have unfortunately relived their donor's last moments. It's not uncommon. My taste buds have changed. And I'm a little bit more aggressive than I used to be. So you definitely take on some characteristics. Like
So
I did
you
not.
like so you like pumpkin pie instead of sweet potato pie now?
You're funny. You're funny. You're funny. You're funny. Okay, because
And you
my
like
daughter was a white male, but listen, okay, I did not like cold cereal. And you go look on top of my refrigerator, you're gonna see Captain Crunch, Apple Jacks, Fruit Loops. Oh my luck, I could eat a whole box of cold cereal. Did never liked meatballs, meatloaf, any of that. Man,
so you like white people food now.
you are funny, and I'm not gonna guess what though? I really can't dance no more. Oh, I remember the first time we know how they be doing the hustle on them hustles and what have you. I got out there trying to hustle, girl. I'm like, oh my God, I can't get right. Literally.
It's like, wait a minute, no, not on the down.
Listen. And I'm here to tell you, I dance. I used to dance. I used to dance on a televised dance show. Like I was a dancer. And I'm like, all y'all getting from me is the same old two steps. That's all y'all getting from me is the same old. That's all I got. The same old two steps. That's all I got. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So does that mean that nothing? I won't
No,
say
ask it. Ask it. Ask
nope.
it. Ask it.
Nope.
Yes.
We'll
This
say
is an
this.
open.
I'll
This is
say
an
this
open
behind
thing.
for. I want the people to come back, so I'm gonna say this one first.
I
But y'all know what I'm thinking. Y'all know
already
what
know
I'm
what you're
doing.
thinking, and that answer is no. No, absolutely not. Nope. Nope. So to so. So to so.
So
Mhm.
yeah. Wow.
And I feel like everything that I'm sharing, there's oh my God, there's so much more that I could talk about. This journey, and when I had the cardiac, I didn't have any college degrees. And I'm here to tell you, I went from an associate to a bachelor to a master, and I just finished my classes in my doctoral program.
And I'm gonna tell
Yes.
you, I know that it has to be something when that trauma hits, because I've died before, twice,
Mm.
and
So you get it.
I live life on purpose.
Yes. 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 Yes.
I
Yes.
live life on
Yes.
purpose.
Yes.
And this last time, when I thought I was going to be out of here with the stroke,
Mm.
I can't let nothing hold me back.
And you know what, Dr.
I
Kimberly,
just,
you know what?
if I think it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
If I feel it, I'm gonna
Yeah.
say it.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
because
Yes.
life is just too
Super.
short
I'm
and
here
it's
to tell you,
so fragile.
I went to Arusha, Tanzania, East Africa in 2019 against my transplant team advice. I went with the father of hospice, Dr. Robert,
Mm.
on a public health mission. They did not want me to go. I'm like, I'm going. Just send me upstairs to the infectious disease travel clinic so I can get everything that I need. I'm going. Now, did I get a little sick over there? A little bit, a little stomach. because all the antibiotics I had to take, but it was life changing. And so I'm here to tell you, Amy Bacon, I travel. I have a shopping addiction. I do. If I see it, I buy it. You have to live each day as though it's your last because it's such when you go through something like what you and I have gone through, Dr. Kimberly, you realize firsthand, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't ever have that opportunity to feel what that feels like. Okay.
And
But
nor what I really want them to.
no,
When I
no,
think about um, dying and coming back, I would tell the joke that there's not this light at the end of this tunnel.
no.
And I said, you have to remember, I said that you're on a table and there's a
Mhm.
huge light that's over you that they're
Mhm.
working on you. So that's the last thing you see,
Yeah.
when you die. And I said, but it's not like there's this big long,
Mm-mm.
tunnel and you see these lights. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
That's the last thing you see are the lights above you. And
You know what? When I had my first open heart surgery, when I was just so deathly ill, I um I saw my guardian angels.
now that
I
I
saw
felt that
it.
like he was holding me and I felt the warmth of God and him saying to me, it's not my time. And that I had to go back. And it was like, I like, where I was just right there in that moment with him and just being held so close to his heart. It's almost like I could just feel the Lord breathe. And it's like, no, I don't want to go back there to
No.
life, to all of that. This was wonderful. And really that was it, and just the things that I've seen and that I know. I see all the hearts. Thank you guys for all of the hearts that every day I'm grateful because then I wouldn't be able to have this conversation. I wouldn't be able to have the show. I wouldn't know the people that that I know. So I'm gonna get my tissue.
And you know what? I'm living my life not only for me, but for my donor Gavin, because he was only 24 years old. And there were so many things that he wasn't able to do. So how dare I
Yeah.
take
Mhm.
this for granted? Y'all,
Yeah.
I go hard. I also teach
Yeah.
grad level a cappella. I teach 6 different classes, and I'm just a giver. I'm a giver. It makes me feel good. I love on everybody that I can, and I'm happy.
I think that those are my new addictions.
Mhm.
Those if I didn't have any before, I do have some now.
Mhm.
And that is definitely to live life on purpose and
Yeah.
to, help those that want to be helped. I'm not trying to, I'm not part of that Captain Save a Hoe. No, that's not it.
Right, 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 right,
You know,
right.
and I don't have nothing against that, and that's somebody else's ministry. But for
Mhm.
those who just need that extra push, that need somebody to believe in them so that they can go on, that's who I'm called to.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I'm called to that person or those persons, that group. And what I've learned is to find your tribe. Who are you called to? And,
Yes.
and keep those folks close. And I agree. I have gotten 2 doctoral degrees. I finished up my degrees
I love
because
it.
I was one class away from getting my master's when I had my 5th head surgery and I found out that I had thyroid cancer.
Oh.
And so I remember the school saying to me, look, we have given you such leeway by coming back every time. I had had 5 head surgeries. At first, they were every 6 months, and then,
Mhm.
they were getting harder on me, and it was taking longer to heal.
Mhm.
And they stretched them out a little bit more past the 6 months, and I was still going to school trying to get my degree,
Amazing.
and
Resilience.
I was one one class away from graduating with my master's with my class. And when I, man,
Oh.
what did you say? This is like pulling a scab off.
It is. It is. It is. It is.
And I just remember being in class that Thursday and getting that phone call. And they said, you're supposed to put your phone away. And I said, yeah, but this is that 734. This is U of M calling.
You already know you're taking that
I
call.
got to take this call. And it was them to say that my biopsy came back positive from cancer and
Oh,
that I needed to be there on Monday. Surgery was going to be Tuesday at 6 a.m. And this is Thursday.
oh man.
And all I'm thinking is like, I guess I'm never going to graduate. And
Oh, but God.
yeah.
Oh,
And
but God.
my whole class came out there, got on the floor with me and prayed because that's where I was on the floor.
Oh,
And everyone came out, they prayed with me, and I packed my stuff, made sure that everything was up to date, my will and
mhm.
my advanced directives, got everything together, left, had the surgery, and 3 months later, I had my stroke. So in 1 year, in 2012, where you were getting a heart, I had my fifth head surgery, thyroid cancer surgery, and a stroke, which left me in a wheelchair. So I've been in a wheelchair. This is my 10th year.
Man.
This is my 10th year. And so I actually finished up that one class in 2017 to get my first doctoral degree. And then I got my second one in 2019. And I did it in disability studies
Okay.
and universal access to life. So we're not talking about the physical building, but
Mhm,
actually talking about the things that you're talking about. Do you have, access to health, a good
mhm,
place to live? Do you have food insecurities? Those kind of things.
mhm,
It's really um, addressing that.
mhm.
So you can see I got the Solomon sword up there. First,
I
you get it.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. You
There-
know what? And you talked about you having your stroke. I had a couple of strokes when I had my LVAD, but thank God that they were mild. But when I had my cardiac arrest, I was without oxygen for 8 minutes. So I had brain damage. So the doctor says. But when I was getting my degrees, Dr. Kimberly, I struggled. I had to relearn how to learn.
And that's been my biggest thing is
Yes.
being able to retain information more than 30 days. They
Mhm,
told me that I had my long-term memory, but I had lost like the ability, for short-term memory. Like if I meet you and I see you tomorrow, yeah, do you remember me?
oh
No.
my God, literally, that's exactly,
No.
exact and I would love to talk to you offline on how my family helped me get through that.
And
Literally went through that. Exactly.
um so I had to, to get this doctoral degree, really both of them, the schools both had to work with me
Mhm, mhm.
to learn it differently.
Yes, yes.
Um, it's difficult for me to read even
Mhm,
now.
mhm.
So I can listen to something, but to be able to read it is difficult and to, be able to take it in. So a lot of things I listen to
You know what's really interesting? I never took notes. I have to listen, and I have to associate it with something
or
that
something else. Yep.
yeah, yes,
I
you
do.
get it.
I
You
have to
get it.
do, yep. I
Yep.
have to do the association. And
Yeah.
so it just blows my mind sometimes the things that like today, I thought of a title for a book. Who would have thunk this up? I mean, just the things that come to my mind.
Mhm.
And it was a post mortem dissection of the mind of an imposter.
Ooh, interesting.
Look at the stuff that comes to my mind. Now I have papers everywhere because I have to immediately write something down because I
Mhm.
won't remember that. But stuff comes to me, but I may
That's
not say it.
amazing. But you know what? That's nothing but God, Miss Kimberly.
Yeah.
It's nothing but
Yeah.
God. God chose us to go through what we have went through and what we're going through because He knew that we could handle it, and we were going to turn the
Hmm.
negative into something. I'm here to tell you, I am so glad that God put me through what He put me through, because I promise you, I would not be where I am today.
People ask me all the time, if you could have a wish, have an answered prayer, they said, would you want to be out of your wheelchair? And I said, emphatically, no, no, because I like who I am
Mhm.
today. And I said, I was more crippled walking around on 6-inch heels than I ever have been being in this wheelchair.
Isn't that amazing? Sometimes I
There
think,
are
God,
things,
you have to go through something to put yourself in a better position. And on the outside looking in, people may see it as, oh my God, that's so horrible. If that were me, I couldn't survive. But
but
here
that's
you
why it's
and
not
I.
you. That's why it's
Exactly.
not you. And what you have to understand is if you break a bone and you don't realize that it's broken and it sets wrong, when you go to the doctor, he's going to have to break it in order to fix it.
Yes.
And so I tell people all the time, what you see on the outside is how I looked on the inside. And all I am is just reversed. I have never been more healed mentally, emotionally,
Mhm.
physically since I've been in this wheelchair than I ever was walking around, ever. And so Shayna says, so I'm not crazy because when things come to my mind, I have to stop and do it or write it down. No, honey, you're not crazy.
Mhm.
Heather Kitson is watching, and I'm not sure if she is in the States or not, but the last I knew of, she was over in Germany. So I want to say thank you
Oh,
so much for tuning in. And it says, God knows the reason for it. Oh, wow. Why we all are the way we are, says Shayna. And Kenneth Bell is tuned in. Hey, Kenneth Bell, how are you? Please let us know where you are watching from, Kenneth. We greatly appreciate it. Um, I just look at how my life has changed for the better because of what I've gone through.
yes.
And, people will say, are there moments in your life that you would want to change? And not just being in the wheelchair, but
Mhm.
all of it. Would you not have wanted to have cancer? Would you not want it, to lose all of your hair, have to have 5 head surgeries? I got this big, huge scar that comes down. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
no hair. And I said, no, because each part of it was something else that I needed. It's just like going to school. You know,
Yes.
you start with an associate's, then you get the bachelor's, then you get a master's. And, in your master's, you have to choose a discipline. So
Mhm.
then your classes have to change based off of your discipline. And then once you have mastered that, again, with your master's degree,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
then comes, that final degree.
Terminal. Yes.
And then they call it the terminal
Mhm. Mhm.
degree because there's nothing left to do. And so when they said to me that this is permanent, it's terminal for you to be in this chair, and I said, well, I guess I have truly gotten PhD, PhD of life because it's a permanent situation. It's terminal.
And you know what? To piggyback off of that, I will, for the rest of my life, be on anti-rejection medications
Mm-hmm.
that suppress my immune system. And so I have a high 50% higher chance of getting the three different types of skin cancer, blood cancer, various infections. You're trading one set of problems for another.
For another.
Yeah, so I always have the threat of rejection, and I've got peers that are are really, oh, woe is me, and I'm like, man, you better bang this life out,
I
and
get
live
excited. Wait a minute. Now, yesterday I sat there and I was counting, don't tell nobody, but I'm
it.
sitting here counting the number of red bottoms that I have. And I'm
Oh,
saying, you
you
know,
are funny. I
I
love
said, I'm going to have to, when I move, because I'm getting a bigger place built. And I said, I need to call these people now to tell them I need 2 more of these And I think I want all of them to roll out because the way I have it now is that my
Mhm.
drawers roll up, my shoes are on drawers and they
Mm,
just roll
good.
out. So I just roll up to them and pull the drawer over and say, okay, I want this pair, I want that pair.
I love it. I love it.
And,
Yes.
and I don't say that to, well, I could brag if I want to because God did it.
Yes.
But to whom much is given, much is required. And so
You're
I tell people, this is just an outward show for y'all. It's not for me.
hmm
And I
hmm
said, because of the obedience. Now,
yes,
if you want to go through what I've been through to get what I got, you're more than welcome to it.
that part.
And I said, because guess what? I got all of these, but I don't walk in them. Now, what's the oxymoron in that? That I got shoes that I can't even get up and walk in
But you can put them on your feet and still look good.
and still look wonderful. And people don't think about it like that.
Hmm.
That, yep, I can afford it, but I can't even walk in them. But I love how God did it because you know what? He said, guess what? If you could have walked in it, he said, you wouldn't stop and help nobody else, though.
That part.
Look at your attitude, though.
Hmm
To
hmm
you, it's nothing. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. But had you been able to walk in them shoes, you would not say, "Oh, I see a young lady over here who's trying to start a business," and you cash app her $500 so that she could go buy some materials. She don't even live in your state, but you see, she trying to make a business.
hmm
Try to get some
hmm
things going. There are things that I could. Thank you for the hurts. Thank you for the hurts.
God is good, isn't He? I
There
am
are
so excited and blessed
there are
that
things,
that
that people will get
Allison,
pissed.
yeah, that Allison put me in contact with you to be on the show today. I am so excited to be here. Thank you.
Everything is all providential. It's all providential. And there's another young lady who said, "Oh, you know what? I think I want to start a business." My brain immediately started designing things for her business and started sending them to her. But that's just how my brain works. But I can't remember somebody that I might have met yesterday.
You remember what's important.
So I just,
Mhm.
I might not be able to read. I have all these books on my shelves and I read them all, but to pick one up and try to read it now, I probably would sound like a third grader trying to read a book out loud to you. But I can tell you what's in that book though.
That's all. Listen, that's all that really
I
matters.
can I can tell you the information and how it can help you. So it really blows my mind at times. And just some of the things that I've done to regain some of that back and even some usage of my hands and of that whole left side. I did acupuncture. So we don't even use a lot of our brain. And
Yes,
so
yes.
there's like a whole section up here that was not even being used. And so where you can see where this has all been damaged for about a year and a half, we put needles in this area right here and connected it to different spots in the body to create a new pathway in my brain, which opened up some other things for me that I know that I didn't know how to do before, and now I know. Or
Excuse, excuse me. My dog is acting a fool, and I gotta let him outside. Hold on one second. I'm sorry, y'all. Bear with me. I gotta.
you know what? We could,
He's my emotional support dog. And you don't see my pajama bottom at the bottom. Hold on.
oh my gosh, this is so funny. Let's see, what do we have here? We got, hey, Dr. Sandra White is tuning in. Hey, Dr. Sandra, how are you? We got some more folks that are tuning in. Dr. Sandra White,
Okay.
and then just those that are blown away by the things that we're sharing. And one of the things that I have found that um, there definitely has been an increase in my brain capacity to think things since we've done that. Now,
hmm
I'm not necessarily, I don't, we didn't get all of this motion where now I never have to ever be in a wheelchair or I can just get up and walk around in shoes and things like that, or be myself. I mean, I'll never be that person
Yeah.
ever. That she'll never be that person
And you
ever.
know what's really interesting. I had both short-term memory loss and long-term memory loss, and I cannot remember the Amy before this happened.
I
And
don't
that
either.
that's the hardest part for me. Like I can't remember how I physically felt. So how I feel now is my new normal because I don't have anything to compare it to.
Oh my
You know what
gosh,
I'm
I thought it
saying?
was just I
No.
thought it was just me because a
Like,
lot of people that I'm around have been born with their disability or whatever's happened. They've always, if they are heart issues, they've always had it.
mhm.
So you and I are what they called not necessarily after the fact, but acquired
Yeah.
an
Yes.
acquired
Yes.
disability. And so I saw some pictures of myself from back in 2012 and
Yeah.
2011. And I kept thinking, like, I can't remember anything about me.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I don't. And the only thing I remember is now.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Just the things that have happened. Even the year that I had my stroke, I do not remember. It happened in October of 2013. So I don't remember the rest of October, November, or
Mhm,
December.
mhm. Yeah, same as me. I could be having a conversation with you, look away, and look back. Oh, when did you get here? When I had to relearn. I couldn't feed
Yeah,
myself. I couldn't do anything. And so
nothing.
I
Nothing for
I when
myself.
I tell you I had to relearn, I remember the first time I got in my car and tried to drive, I got lost going around the block.
It was 4 years before I was able to drive. And when I did drive, I didn't even drive myself at first because I didn't remember how to.
Yeah,
So I
yes.
would just go when nobody was around, just go sit in the car and I would pray and ask the Lord to remind me. And the thing about it is that the car that I got the Lord ended up blessing me with a Range Rover
Mhm.
and it didn't require keys.
Oh, praise
You
him.
just had to push a button.
Mhm,
So that was
mhm.
new for me. Was
Mm.
okay, so now you got to get in a car and you only push a button? Well, how does that work? And
You
I
know,
remember sitting there forever, didn't realize that you had to put your foot on the brake
oh my God,
in order to push
literally,
the button.
I went through the same thing, sat in my
And I
car
said,
for
how come?
hours,
And I never
literally.
paid attention. And I said, okay, well, all they did was get in and push the button. So how come it's not working for me?
I went through the exact same thing, sat in my car for hours, didn't know how to work the CD player, and I had a a
A
stick
five
shift.
feet. Oh my gosh.
Ooh, well, you already know that was too much hand-eye coordination. Mm-mm,
I
mm-mm.
couldn't imagine trying to do a stick.
And
No.
you know what? For me, I couldn't ride in the front seat of a car for a long time. I had to be in the back seat.
Oh, absolutely. Because when the airbags come out, it's going to hit
Yep,
you
yep,
straight
yep,
in the
yep,
chest.
yep, 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 yep. So yeah, I was riding for a long time. For a long time.
Oh, you were chauffeured. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I remember when I had my LVAD, oh my God, people are so ignorant. I remember I was at the bank one time and this teller was like, "What's that Google gadget you got?" He called me SpongeBob Light Years.
Ah,
Yes, he called me SpongeBob Light Years. Yep, yep. Oh, I would have parents just grab their kids up and pull them close to them because they thought because I had an LVAD, so I had wires and I had IV like literally IV bags and oxygen. And I looked a hot mess. And people were pulling the kids close. I'm like, I'm not contagious. I just got some stuff, keeping my stuff together. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was a hot mess. I was a sight to see. I really was. I was a sight to see.
you
And
keep
so
just
now,
hearing
and
it in
now,
the background. That's spooky.
oh, and you know what? So now it took me years to get used to my body scars.
Oh, Allison is watching. Hey, Allison.
Allison, my Allison.
Your girl, that's my Allison.
That's my
That's my
Allison.
Allison.
That's my
That's
Allison.
my
That's
Allison.
my Allison.
That's my Allison.
Hi,
Mm.
Allison.
She said, my Allison. Do you know that it is 5:24? So we can keep talking until you're.
So it's only been an hour and 25 minutes. I have other obligations. I actually have
So
a student that's wanting me to help her with biostatistics. You know, it's funny. I teach biostatistics. Like, if you could have told me this back in 2009, after I had my cardiac arrest and had to relearn everything, that I'd be teaching statistics, I'm like, quit playing.
like,
But yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah, right.
Because I hate it. I
Yes.
think I passed it with a D.
I was happy about that, huh?
Girl, I was happy, and then I did try to do a little extra credit, so I got can I have at least a D plus?
Right. I remember when I was taking stats in grad school, literally, I cried. I ugly cried. I had to put it on the altar. I'm like, I need the mustard seed from the back with all, I need the oil, or I need all
I
the
need it
mustard.
all rain
I need
down, oh
all of that.
Jesus.
I need all of
Help
that.
my brain. So I was happy so I did get the D and the plus.
And the
You know,
plus.
and I said, well, I'm just right there. You could kind of make it a C minus. It's just like, what
Oh,
you need
you're
to stop.
asking too much. You're asking for too
You're
much.
asking for too much. But now I tell you, I can just.
Yes, yes. But so what I would like to do before we wrap up, I want to take the time out and thank you, Dr. Kimberly, for first of all having me here. And
Absolutely.
I am looking forward to having more conversations with you because we have so much in common. And I hope that, our conversation has resonated and touched someone in the audience. And I implore everyone to sign up to be an organ and a tissue donor. One person can save the lives of up to 8 people through organ donation and improve the lives of up to 75 people through tissue donation. And in addition, a lot of people don't realize this, but you can also be a living donor. You can give one of your kidneys. And
Yes.
if you were logged in earlier, you understand the dire need for kidneys. Okay, so you can,
Thank you for the hearts. We see the hearts.
yes, and so you can donate one of your kidneys. Also, you can donate a lobe of your liver because your liver is the largest organ in the body, and it's the only organ that can regenerate itself. So you can donate a piece of your liver, and within a year, it will regenerate.
Oh, we
And
sounded a Grey's Anatomy.
yes, and also your lung. So your right lung has, I'm sorry, your left lung has 2 lobes and your right one has 3. You can donate a lobe of your lung also while you're alive. So if you know anyone that maybe has end stage COPD or emphysema or maybe cystic fibrosis, you can save someone's life with living donation while you are alive. And as you can see at the bottom of the screen, www.golm.org, you can go to our website. Signing up is so easy. It takes seconds to do. And you know what? You can't take your organs with you when you go.
You can't.
Mm-mm. No, no. So I thank everybody. And Dr. Kimberly, I have your cell phone number. Let's definitely keep in touch.
Well, I think that was a wonderful ending. And I want to say thank you so much. I think we still have a couple, 2, 3 more shows to do with Gift of Life Michigan, with the finale being coming there to Ann Arbor and bringing in my piece. Here we go. Which is still down at, wow, it still kind of touches my heart to have to see it. As you guys know, that my husband, we did do the tissue donation, and I do have on my pen, and 80 lives were touched because we did the tissue donation. And so this has been the impetus for the show and for my art prize piece. All of this was done using artificial intelligence. So please, 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 it is located at 101 Fulton in the Veterans Memorial Park. My husband was a United States Army veteran. I am a United States Navy veteran. So please, I will be down there the rest of this week so that we can do pictures together and we can talk about the piece, but it does tell the story about everything that was donated, even how we gave um, the whole globe of the eye and the other part. So that two persons who were blind were able to receive their sight along with some other donations. So we thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you on next week. And please go down to the DMV and change your license saying that you want to be a donor. And now we just found out that you can be a live donor. Over 1,900 folks are waiting for a kidney. Please go get yourself tested and checked. And if not for yourself, it might be someone in your family who might need you to do that for them. Get yourself checked, please, 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 please. And if you didn't see the whole thing, please go back. And number one, make sure that you become your own best advocate when you go to your doctor. Please make sure that you get labs done. It's called a metabolic panel. Make sure you get that done at least one time a year and check your numbers. Do it around your birthday. Go get your numbers and check them. If they're high, make sure you make a separate appointment to see your doctor so that you can address them. Maybe you don't get to do it on that same day, but you can do it 6 months later or even a couple months later. Schedule just to have the conversation concerning your labs. And these are just some simple things that you can do to help yourself to live a better life. All right. So thank you so much for tuning in on today. We'll see you on next week.